All right, let's dive right into this explainer and unpack something pretty fascinating: the surprisingly scientific, step by step journey of turning a mere prospect into a fiercely loyal customer. We often think of sales as this purely charismatic, off the cuff art form, right? But behind the scenes, there is a highly structured, tried and tested process. It's literally a masterclass in psychology and strategy. Now, get ready for a totally counterintuitive reality check. Successful selling is actually 90% preparation and only 10% presentation. Yeah, let that sink in for a second. 90%. The vast majority of the real work happens way, way before you ever even say hello to the buyer. It's all about having a scientific method that creates this massive synergistic effect when you finally do make your pitch. So, to demystify all this science, we're going to break down the timeline of a sale into 4 logical phases: the foundation, the encounter, the challenge, and finally, the resolution. Starting right off with phase 1, the foundation, focusing on preparation and prospecting. This right here is the core roadmap. Organizations rely on 7 generic steps to move deals seamlessly through the pipeline. We start with prospecting and qualifying, move right through the approach and presentation phases, tackle those inevitable objections, close the sale, and finish up with the all-important follow-up. Right out of the gate, the absolute most crucial thing to grasp is the massive difference between a lead and a prospect. A lead, well, that's just a name and maybe an email address. That's it. But a prospect? Now, a prospect is a lead that's been rigorously qualified. To be a true prospect, they absolutely must check 4 boxes. They need the product, they have the authority to buy it, the financial ability to actually pay for it, and the sheer eligibility to purchase it in the first place. Seriously, skipping this qualification step is a massive, massive error. Think about it. Would you try to sell a heavy-duty typewriter to someone happily operating a brand new computer? Or, I don't know, a fancy silk saree to someone just looking for daily workwear? Of course you wouldn't. It's just a complete waste of time. Highly productive selling means aggressively filtering out those non-prospects on day 1. So how do we actually find these highly qualified folks? Well, salespeople kind of have to act like detectives here, using a whole bunch of diverse methods. You might use the endless chain method, gathering referrals from happy customers to build this unbroken chain of warm leads. Or you might rely on spotters, think taxi drivers or clerks, who toss you leads for a small fee. You could even use good old-fashioned cold canvassing, just knocking on doors for daily use products. The whole goal is to fill your pipeline with people who actually fit that strictly qualified profile. Moving right along to phase 2, the encounter, which covers approaching and presenting. Hold your horses, though. Before you even think about saying hello, you absolutely must complete the pre-approach. This is where you gather strategic behavioral intelligence. You got to figure out their normal buying behavior, their personality traits, maybe even their educational background. Why? Because you have to treat them like a unique individual, not just a suspect in a lineup. This totally prevents you from making serious rookie mistakes and helps you perfectly tailor your pitch to their specific social and economic status. Now, when that crucial first meeting finally happens, and hey, our source wisely advises doing this during their slack hours instead of super early or super late, you need a rock-solid strategy to grab their attention instantly. You might drop a compliment approach, praising their impeccable taste, or use a reference approach by whipping out glowing testimonial letters from happy clients. Feeling bold? Try a dramatic approach to just shock them into focusing on you. Ultimately, the move you choose depends entirely on all that sweet intelligence you gathered during your pre-approach. Next up, phase 3, the challenge. It is time to navigate customer objections. Look, our natural instinct is to completely panic and fear resistance, right? But the source material tells us to flip the script entirely. An objection often just means one thing: purchase anxiety. When a buyer says, hey, we aren't ready to decide today, it usually just means they need a little more info to feel less risky about the whole thing. Honestly, an objection is a fantastic sign. It means they're actually engaged and paying very close attention to what you're saying. And here's a rule from the text that is an absolute total mindset shift. Never, ever argue. Period. If a prospect raises a concern, your go-to reply should just be, that is an interesting point. Boom. It keeps your composure totally intact, stops the customer from getting all defensive, and completely validates their concerns right then and there. Let's turn this into an actual toolkit for handling those objections, because you've got some highly scientific methods at your disposal. Take the boomerang method. This is brilliant. It's where you take their specific objection and literally flip it into the exact reason they need to buy. Or the counterbalance method, where if they make a super valid point, you just offset it by dropping a major advantage they hadn't even considered. You could even use the failure to hear method and just deliberately, politely ignore a trivial complaint to keep the momentum going.
Which brings us to our final stop, phase 4. The resolution. We're talking closing and the feedback loop.
Recognizing the exact right moment to close is an absolute art form. If it's a high-pressure sale, sure, you have to lean hard on persuasion. But ideally, you employ specific techniques to persuade them totally naturally. Like, you could create a subtle fear of loss by just hinting the product won't be around forever, or you simply summarize the biggest benefits one last time. Mastering this step is how you make sure all that hard work actually translates into a real reward. A pro tip here, you can test the waters gently by throwing out an indirect trial close. Ask something like, so, what's your favorite payment option? Cash or card? Or, when would you ideally like this delivered? If they answer positively, guess what? You just closed the sale without ever demanding it. But hey, if the indirect trial fails, you gotta confidently pivot to a direct close. Believe it or not, some prospects actually expect you to push them a little bit. It makes them feel important and honestly puts them in a better bargaining position. But wait, a successful sale absolutely does not end at the cash register. The totally crucial 7th step is the follow-up. Buyers get post-purchase dissonance all the time. You know, that nagging, did I make the right choice feeling? By checking in, keeping your promises, and making sure they're fully happy, you squash that anxiety. This is literally how you evolve from just being another salesperson into a trusted business advisor. And that is what sparks that endless chain of future referrals. So, we've seen that the magic of sales really isn't magic at all, is it? It's a structured, strategic process built on rigorous preparation and a whole lot of psychological understanding. Now that you've got this roadmap, from meticulously qualifying a prospect all the way to becoming a lifelong, trusted advisor, I'll leave you with this one question to chew on. How are you going to apply that 90% preparation rule to your very next pitch?